What scares you as an adult that didn't bother you as a kid? A tooth falling out. As a kid it was gross, funny and painful all at once. As an adult, horrifying. My dentist said that a couple of my teeth are a little mobile. Then he said it's nothing to really worry about. As if hearing teeth and mobile in the same sentence is ever good. I had surgery a couple of months ago. When I woke up, I had a gash cut into my lower back gum about half an inch long. My very back lower tooth was also loose. I could wiggle it with my fingers. I was terrified. 2 different dentists took x-rays and told me no big deal. But I was mortified. Took about a month. But the gash healed and the tooth tightened up. How does that happen? Signs of aging. When you're a kid, getting older means new and exciting changes. When you're in your 30s, it means far less fun things. I don't really sweat the cosmetic ones. I just try to think about the first lines to show up on my face were the ones you get from laughing. That feels right to me. The tendons in my legs not bouncing back from a walk or run. That I could do without. Traveling in a car. Especially if I'm not the one driving. I never used to be like that until I passed my test. Now I feel myself putting my foot down on an imaginary brake when in the passenger seat. I was a perfectly happy passenger until I learned to drive. I get horrible anxiety now and end up braking from the passenger seat too and bracing myself when we're behind another car. Other people's driving. I can barely sit through a car ride with my dad now without grabbing the speed bar. I felt that for a long time after driving for many years. But I recently realized I just don't trust other people's judgments on what to do in situations. Yup. I volunteer to drive most times because I truly just only trust myself. And something about me just wanting myself in the driver's seat if an accident was about to happen. I can barely concentrate on anything when I'm in the passenger seat. I don't want to be in anyone's seat. Head injuries. As a kid, I thought broken bones were the big thing to worry about. Because I could visualize what that was. I had no sense for the severity of brain injuries. As an adult, protecting my noggin is my #1 injury concern. Because the human machine don't work with a damaged processor. Everything that you are and respect is contained in this tiny dome. One false move and you can become a monster to your peers. Or a burden to your loved ones. It's pretty scary to consider that. This is actually something I've dealt with to an extent. I busted my head in a weird ice skating incident. Pretty badly concussed. The people close to me around that time said I completely changed as a person following that. Lost a lot of friends. I only have very faint memories from before. And rely on others to jog my memory a bit. I consider myself lucky to not be worse. But I can't help but wonder how I'd react if I could somehow meet myself before that. Also, I didn't have ADHD before. But I do now. That's fun LMAO. Also, I didn't have ADHD before. But I do now. That's fun LMAO. I'm sure there are scientists who'd love to talk to you about this. If you can trigger ADHD with a brain injury, maybe you could treat it without medication in non-injured brains. I mentioned it to the doctor I saw for post-concussion syndrome. And he said it's known to happen occasionally. From my understanding, it's an active study. I'll definitely hit up some colleges or something with my case and see if they'd like info. My takeaway layman is that after a TBI, the brain is basically rewiring itself. And things can go wrong during that. Jumping down from a height greater than a few feet. As a kid I could jump off a roof and roll with it. Nowadays if I land funny I fear I'll be paralyzed for life. When I was 13, My brother and I jumped from our roof onto the trampoline. Now I get into a seated position on the truck tailgate before sliding off the remaining 6 inches. And yet I still need to let out a moan and groan when I do even that. Damn, now imagine what 8 inches would do. Buy me a beer and you'll find out. Take your damn upvote and call your mother. Never mind the upvote. I've got your beer right here. I can provide some of the inches, but someone else is going to have to pick up the other 7. That's not some. Some is more than 1. I got you though. Now we just need another 6. My parents' mortality. I've already done the please don't die before I get to the hospital plane flight. Thankfully that was not the case. For now. This one is kind of weird for me but completely true. Because when you are a child, you see for parents' mortality as something so far away and that eventually you will be prepared. But is never the case. Recently my grandmother died after a long disease, and what it struck me the most was the reaction from my mom. She said, "No somos nada. We are nothing." She was devastated, and then it comes to my mind. One day I would be the one on her shoes and she will be on the coffin. The hard part is that is the best result. That you bury your parents, not the other way around. I had no fear of U-Hauls until I rented a U-Haul. I filled out all of my information online and they gave me the keys to a 27-foot box truck. No training. No anything. They'll just let anyone take these massive vehicles and drive them off the lot. Give them a wide berth. I reserved a small U-Haul. I think the 10 a few weeks in advance. Get there. Sorry. We don't have any of those. We only have 26 trucks left. Phew. I was driving a 2-door coupe and had never driven anything bigger than a small SUV. I had to drive it through 2 cities. Scared the crap out of me the entire time. Lack of time. As a kid, felt like I had all the time in the world. As an adult, I feel like I have no time to do anything other than work. Taking away the moments that make up a dull day. Yes, I've been made aware that it's ticking, thanks guys. I played a bluegrass rendition of this song for a couple friends. They said the lyrics were really powerful and asked what song it was. When I told them Pink Floyd, they immediately dismissed the song as stupid hippie speep. Undefined. Edit 2. The song is by Green Sky Bluegrass. I feel like bluegrass is just hippie music for hillbillies. Hillpies. Can confirm. I've seen my fair share of hippies at bluegrass shows burning the devil's lettuce, drinking moonshine, and enjoying a few toot skies of the old Peruvian nose beers. Good times. My biggest fear is that I'll end up requiring care by others when I grow older. I'd rather die before that. Also being stuck in my country and forced to live a mediocre life. I just turned 32 and I've been basically paraplegic for 4 years and it's awful. I wish I would just die. I feel like an anchor around the necks of everyone I love. They would mourn, but then they could just live their lives instead of carrying me around. I turned 63 this year and I've been a paraplegic for 40 years. I wish I could tell you it gets better. It doesn't. We get to have all the problems of aging and the problems of paraplegia. The only thing you can change is your attitude. When I found out back in 1980 that I'd never walk again, I cried. Then dried my face and decided to get on with it. Beep it. I'll do what I can with what I got. Best wishes on life's endeavors. How are your muscles and joints doing? I'm 43 and transfers are getting harder for me. It's the main thing I'm worried about. 47 and 12 years para. Still going okay with transfers. Keep your weight under control and exercise as much as possible. Not looking forward to when I can't do everything myself. So trying to keep that day as far in the future as I can. Getting out of bed in the morning after you slept in the wrong position. I slept funny the other day. So when I would turn my head a certain way, my elbow hurt. What the beep? Butterflies. I don't get it either. Oh. And teenagers. I think everybody's scared of teenagers. Even teenagers. This is probably true. The different breeds of teen fear each other, while the rest of us fear them all. AM teenager. Can confirm. Needing help or advice. I'm a grown adult now. 34. And my mom and dad have since passed on. When I run into a problem with an appliance or a home repair or need help with a recipe, it always takes me a minute to remember they aren't here anymore. Really sucks having no one to lean on when things get hard. My mom used to just give me 100 without question when I'd be hard up for money. No more bank of mom. If I run out of money now I'm just beeped until payday. Undefined. I don't know if this will help or not, but there's a YouTube channel where it's just a dad recording how to do things like basic plumbing or electrical. I'm only 19, but he has helped me out a couple of times when I couldn't find anyone nearby that had the answers. Garage door springs. I owned my own garage door company for 10 years. So naturally I'm not afraid of them. But I can assure you, if you are not trained and don't know what you're doing, those springs will absolutely beat you to death. Maybe at best. Take off a few fingers. Number 1 tip. Do not use a screwdriver to try to wind them or unwind them. Yeah. Using a screwdriver sounds like an awesome way to get suddenly impaled. Honestly. Just getting older. I'm only 36, but I just don't want to be an old person. I fear my daughter is already starting to see me that way. But I do everything I can to fight it. One disc in my back is permanently injured from a car wreck 12 years ago. One knee is bad from playing with a nephew 14 years ago. I want to be the strong hero my daughter needs as she grows up, but I fear these will really catch up to me in the coming years. Undefined. Edit 2. Okay, normally I hate edits but wanted to add this. At bedtime I talk to her about how I love that she says I'm her hero. But sometimes I feel old, and would she still feel the same when I'm not as strong as I am now? She deadass told me as long as you're strong enough to swing the small sledgehammer. Because even I can do that and I'm just a kid. I love that little girl. Honestly. Death. Never really thought about it as a kid. Think about it way too much as an adult. The only thing that makes me sad about death is leaving behind the things I love, that I'll never be conscious of them again. Loved ones and even my favorite films. Never to know them again. Never to hear music again. Never to be cozy at home with a good film. Instead your body is 6 feet underground forever in all weather. Never to be looked at or touched again. Exactly this. I'm not afraid of dying. I'm afraid of no longer having consciousness. That sounds really beeping lame. That is my exact fear. It's the scariest thing in the whole world. How easily your life can start going downhill. Roller coasters. I used to ride them all summer long because I had a Flag summer pass. I went a few years ago with my younger sister. It wasn't fun anymore. I just kept feeling like I was going to die. I ended up holding purses and keeping my feet on the ground. I never understood why my mom would just wait for me. But I get it now. Anything related to going to the hospital. When I was a kid, I was always in the emergency room with a deep cut or broken bone. Now that I realize it isn't as free as I thought it was when I was a kid, I'll make any excuse to not go to the hospital. Case in point. My wife before we were married went to the ER with severe abdominal pains and found out she had an infection in her gallbladder. So they removed it. Her hospital bill, because she went out of network and had an ER visit, was over 80,000. Meanwhile, I probably would have just died because I would have crunched down 100 Imodium before visiting the hospital. Speep, I'm a doctor and I avoid the hospital at all costs. Luckily I can do a lot of the repairs myself, but I almost tore my brother a new one when he went to the ER for stitches. Ridiculously overpriced. I should say as well. Let's say you go to the ER for stitches. Your bill will probably be 1,500. You know how much the staff who actually cared for you will see of that? Probably about 300 split between all the providers you come face to face with. It's bananas. Anesthesia. As a kid, I was led to believe that it was something magical that happened to you when you got your tonsils out. And then afterwards, you could eat all the ice cream you wanted. Now that I've had it as an adult and know that there's always a possibility it could go horribly wrong, I get really antsy and scared just thinking about it. Owning a home. I am only slightly exaggerating when I say that I wake up every day fully expecting some new and expensive catastrophe to unfold. Man. Like 90% of the time when I have a stress dream, it's about finding water where there shouldn't be water. I was crazy on bicycles when I was a kid. I'd jump anything, anywhere, on a little tiny bike, crashing spectacularly like we all did in the 70s. Now, I have a bike with suspension that rivals a motocross bike. And this very bike can handle obstacles that off-road trucks might have issues with. And I ride around never leaving the earth. With a helmet. And enough other stuff on I can literally play football. I used to love flying as a kid. Then, when I was late teen/young adult, I was on a particularly turbulent flight for hours over the ocean and thought we were going to crash. 4 years after that, I couldn't fly without anxiety. I didn't want to look out the window. I'd close my eyes and mutter through turbulence, etc. Then, inexplicably, I chose a career as a flyer in the Air Force. That helped to get me over my fear of flying pretty well. Financial emergency. 100% when you're a kid you don't think about things like this. You could be off of work due to injury for 2 months and lose everything you worked hard for, even if you were doing everything right financially. Not being insured. Literally can't get sick or into an accident because it will cripple me right now. So I just stay home. The final realization that the path you're on, career, wife, skills, friends, will be the one you travel until retirement. It's like, welp, only 30 years to go. This is my life now. As I edge closer to my 30s, this one scares me more than most. This isn't just some video game where I can start over and pick another path. There are only so many places I can live, people I'll know, or career paths that I can go down. All I can try now is get one that will make this little existence somewhat meaningful to fill the void. You can change career when you're older. I'm 39 and I've changed paths a few times. I'll never be rich because I've not focused on one thing and climbed the ladder. But I get to learn new things and I'm not bored, so I'm happy. It all depends on your priorities. Deep water. I learned to swim in it by essentially jumping into a pool on holiday, as all the other kids were in the pool and didn't want to be left out. Now for some reason, if I'm in water and it reaches my chest, I'm struck by an absolute rising sense of dread. My breathing gets shallow and I feel so uneasy and upset I have to get into shallower water to be calm again. I feel kind of similar about the open sea if I'm on a boat. It absolutely terrifies me that there's miles upon miles of emptiness below you. Responsibility. No joke. Being a father and husband and providing for them is scary when your job isn't very good. The fact that our leaders don't really know what they are doing and that they use their position for self-benefit. Driving. Each time I go out onto the road I get more and more scared to go back. I'm only 19. How is 90% of this species so reckless that they can manage to scare a 19-year-old off the road? The reason I pay so much extra for insurance is because I'm supposed to be the one doing that. But all middle-aged senior citizens that think they own every inch of the road are beating me to it. Losing my job. Since obviously I didn't have or need a job as a kid to keep a roof over my head and food on the table. I've been laid off twice, once just before Christmas. So now I dislike Christmas. I've quit a job once when my company was being taken over. I was a contractor. And usually those are the first to go in a merger. And I quit another time when my manager was a raging bitch / perfectionist helicopter boss and the writing was on the board. I'm in a great job right now, the best I've ever had. And just survived a layoff round. I keep waiting for the luck with this job to wear off. And I'm looking yet again. Medical debt. As a kid I'd take any dare because I wasn't the one that got the bill if there were negative consequences. Phone calls. I used to call people all the time as a kid. Now I'm terrified of them and get anxiety attacks every time I have to call a non-family member. I'm slowly learning to manage by writing everything down I want to say so I don't go blank. Being in large crowds. Everything, straight face. Being an adult really sucks. Yes, I love my so and my puppy boys, but damn if I don't miss being a naive child. Money management. It's not easy being a student, and managing my tiny pocket money never bothered me when I was younger. I was the most outgoing kid ever. I'd just go straight to the playground and blurt out to the first person I met, "Hey, wanna be friends?" I was loud, energetic, social, and pretty much had no fears at all. I can't believe how I used to be that outgoing as a child. Only to grow up anxious of life itself. WTF happened along the way. Going to the hospital. Because I know I'm getting 6 different bills from 6 different people. And they're all going to be at least 1,000 or more each. And I have less than 30 days to pay for it. You name it. Heights. Speed. Drinking to list is long. How not invincible you are. Mail. As a kid, it was magical getting mail. As an adult, it's all just adverts or bills. Extra scary when the mail is from the IRS. My parents' political views. Mortality. I've been mourning my parents' and family members' death for the past few years, even though they haven't yet died. Hangovers. And yes, I started early. Taxes. My parents are getting older. Aneurysms. Thanks, Internet. Bugs. I don't know why, but as a kid I was in love with catching grasshoppers. But now I scream when I hear the insect wings near me.